everyone needs to vent sometimes, but doing it over and over, it's like you're putting the energy out into the universe that I have this problem, I have this problem, I have this problem. You don't want to do that. You could I have this problem until you can vent it a little, and then we're all human, but then you've got to make up your mind. I used to do a lot of meditation classes in California, and the theme would be I am. So I am healthy, I am powerful, I am healing. Whatever it is, I am is extremely powerful. Loving yourself is part of this whole thing, And in fact, it's all the healing, it's actually what happens is you go through all the other stuff to love yourself.
Welcome to Journey to June. I'm your host, Wendy Basilico, coach, mindset coach, performance coach, and here to help you connect to who you're born to be, and so you can leave your imprint on the ones you love and the world. We have an awesome guest today. Her name's Rena Joy, and her name says it all because she is bringing joy in the world in the most magical way. Been in the holistic well-being industry for over 49 years, and she shares her story of leaving the California world, of running a business for 2 decades, and moving to the Jupiter area, where she runs a company called Soothe Your Soul, and you will want to listen to this episode. She shares about her own journey of healing and what she has to offer in her store, and she has such passion around bringing out the best in light inside of you and healing yourself, and knowing you have the power to do whatever it is you desire. Check her out, Rena Joy. Enjoy the episode. So, hello, Rena. Welcome to Journey to June.
Thank you so much for having me.
I love it. So Rena and I walked into Rena's store and Soothe the Soul, and it's right next to this yoga studio, native yoga I go to, and I was always curious, like in the last year, I never knew really what it was. So why don't we start with that? Like, what is this magical place that's in Juno Beach that you have brought into this community?
Soothe Your Soul. So it's basically what the name says. My intention is to help people heal in every way, body, mind, emotions, and to help people remember the truth of who they are. That's the bottom line. Is I think we are amazing beings as humans. What we can do, our feelings, what we can create, and a lot of people just get caught up in life and get caught up in their problems or whatever's going on. A lot of people don't know what to do. They try to please other people, and instead of loving themselves and being that really amazing truth of themselves, they're just caught up in all kinds of things. So everything in my store is about having a person remember who they are as a powerful, beautiful, magnificent being.
And as you can tell, this is why I love you and love the message you have out in the world, because I'm all about bringing that out as well in a different way. And I really believe when we marry sources, like, I have a philosophy of what I believe I can help people bring to who they are.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I walk in your store, I'm like, this is another person bringing something magical that I might not have. It's like if I taught golf, like, I don't have all the answers, like, and sometimes someone might need the tools you have, or the gifts that you're bringing in your store, which happened to me when I walked in. I had no idea. I've been to a lot of places that have stones and messages. So what is cool in your store? Because I've gone to your store for various reasons, and I'm learning. It's new to me. But just give us some examples. What's in the store, and why people come to you at first. Let's say that.
So there's a lot of things in the store. I know that there's because I had a store in California and I still do for 28 years. So I have 28 years of experience of what people want and how to help people. So I have a whole variety. I do have crystals, gemstones, beautiful gemstone jewelry, but I also have a lot of natural healing remedies, flower essences, which a lot of people think are the same as essential oils, but they're not. They work on a very deep soul level to heal any kind of emotion. I have essential oils. But I think the other thing that really draws people to my store is the energy because I meditate every single day before we open the store with the intention that we are drawing in the people who we are meant to serve, the people who are ready to transform, ready to change, ready to awaken. And so that energy is, I can feel the energy. I visualize like a beautiful light coming in, and everything in the store is charged with this light. So when people take it home, they still don't just get the product, they get the energy.
I love this. So when you say, explain to me further, because I feel like as an athlete, we aren't taught what you're talking about. Like but I know I'm working on it for a long time, but it doesn't ooze out of me. Let's say that. So you're talking, you meditate to intentionally and vision, which athletes vision, but one from a spiritual way.
Yes.
Can you explain further?
Sure. So in the meditation, I actually say the words in the meditation because I think that not only visualizing, I visualize and say the words, that it's my intention to make a positive difference in as many people's lives as possible, and that I can see and know that the universe is working as they pour this like a beautiful healing light into the store. They infuse it in everything in the store, and I see a vortex of energy, like a spiral of energy that's touching the people that I can be of service to. And I ask, and I believe when you ask the universe, when you ask for anything, you have to ask and you'll receive. And I teach that. I teach classes too. I just teach that a lot of people don't stop and ask. I mean, even if you ask yourself, it's very powerful. But when you ask and you say it out loud too, if you just say it to the universe, then things happen. So I ask that the people I can serve the most somehow be drawn in. And it happens all the time. People will say, I was driving and I just felt like I was supposed to turn in here, and I don't know why I'm here, but
And that's pretty much how I showed up. Literally, I was
Yeah.
like a zombie. Like
Yeah.
one day, my daughter was doing class next door.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this looks cool.
Yeah.
So that's
So yeah, I mean, I've been doing it, like I said, for 28 years. So it's not like I have to try that hard anymore. It just, I'm, in that wave of doing it. I'm in that flow of doing it. And I just, and that's what happens. I mean, the people who I know I'm supposed to serve come in because people have amazing experiences. Not everybody, but, there are some people that just come in and look around and whatever, maybe buy a couple of things. But there's a lot of people that are having transformational experiences in many ways.
so cool. Give an example of some people that have come to you that you've really transformed where they are, whether like self or healing or whatever.
So I'll give a couple of really good examples. We also have a pulsed electromagnetic field therapy mat,
which I've tried, which
Yeah.
you have to.
Yeah, which
I'm
is
learning.
it's awesome because it mimics the Earth's magnetic field, and it pulses energy into every cell of a person's body. So when that happens on a cellular level, people have more energy, and it's not necessarily like the energy you feel when you feel like you have energy. It's more on the cellular level, although it can translate eventually to how much you feel like you have energy. But for example, I had a guy who had terrible neuropathy. He's 75 years old, could barely walk because his feet were just, he couldn't feel his feet. And he had extreme pain in his knee. He was going to have a knee replacement. He had all kinds of other problems. His blood pressure was high. So he was on our mat, and in 5 days, he could walk. He could feel his feet. His 80% of his knee pain went away, and he decided he didn't need a knee replacement. And then he's had, as time has gone by, because that's been a couple of months, his blood pressure went from 170 in the top number down to 120. He was just at his doctor the other day, and he came in, and he actually called me from his doctor's office to tell his doctor, was like, what is this? What are you doing? And that's one thing. But then there's another person who is just struggling with childhood trauma of feeling rejected by her mother, just a bunch of stuff that happened in her childhood, and has not been able to let that go. And it keeps recurring and recurring in her life, and every time she thinks, I'm done with this, the emotions come up again, and she's in a lot of pain. So I'm working with her with flower essences, which are deep emotional remedies.
So how they obviously have to trust. It's not a like walk in the store and like heal me.
Right.
So they start to get to know like
Right.
obviously
Right.
who you are more than like what you have, and then you're kind of like then they're like, oh, so I've been in the store where I feel like people are actually calling you with like because you obviously help people in LA as well.
Yes.
So you probably have people calling you that have had great experience, that trust you,
Yes.
that are like, hey, like even my daughter had on the edge of bronchitis, and I don't usually use meds, and I kick myself that I didn't come to you because I could have tried something different that I don't mess around with meds personally, but so just like stuff like that, I think that's the other thing is like knowing there's other answers that normally when we don't feel well, we go right to the doctor, but there are other cures. Like how would you describe that for someone listening to be curious besides just taking the first meds for blood pressure or whatever that is?
So when I was 18, I had been sick as a kid my whole life. I always had.
Where'd you grow up?
In California.
Okay.
And I was always on antibiotics. I mean, I literally, it would like, I would have a cold or flu, and by the time I finished that one, it seemed like I already had another cold or flu. And I was so tired of being sick that I just, my mind told me this is not normal. And so I started going to libraries and health food stores and studying.
At how old?
At 18.
Wow.
So
and your parents didn't.
I actually had left home. I was in college.
You left home. Okay.
Yeah, I had a disagreement with my mother, who was very controlling. So I left.
So there was more than not feeling well. There was also like emotional stuff too.
There was emotional stuff, but I am so grateful because I read a lot of self-help books, and I was able to get through that pretty quickly. I mean, maybe it took a few years but I was like, I am who I am, and if my mother, whatever. I mean, of course, there's pain when you have a disconnect from your family, but I just was able.
Yeah.
to...
So, but if anyone's listening, like you were able to get through it, I know I'm close with my family, but I struggled because I thought differently, and then I really didn't trust my own instincts, and so I stayed in that like just going along the flow and looked all good on paper, resume, like what I was doing, but inside I felt like awful. I felt like anxious, thinking like, is this all like this is what it's supposed to be like? And I lost my sports, and in my 20s as a woman, I was just like, I'm just teaching. Like, where do I go from here? Just get married and have kids? Like, I remember feeling awful. If we have listeners that are like, how do you just when you feel off with something with your family, what's your favorite book, or what's something you could give them that goes, here's a direction? Like everybody has to find their own path, obviously, but.
So I think part of it was that I actually ran away from home. I left one day when my mother wasn't there, and I
how old?
At 18.
Oh, at 18.
Yeah, and I stayed with my boyfriend, who my mother didn't approve of, but at least I had somewhere to go. But I think it's just I don't know if it's just my personality. Of course, I had pain, and it took me a few years. I mean, I went to therapy, but for a very short time because I felt like this is not helping me because I'm just reiterating what, so what I did, because I'm just the kind of person that once I make up my mind to do something, I just do it. So again, I read a lot of self-help books. I mean, like Louise Hay, Wayne Dyer, just a ton. I have hundreds and hundreds of books, and I just like read what it said in the books and thought, I'm just going to do this. I mean, it was painful. I remember journaling for a while, how I felt, and some crying and stuff, but it didn't take me that long. And because my real passion was I don't ever want to be sick again. I don't ever want to get a cold or flu again. And so I went to libraries, I went to health food stores. So I was in college, and I had to put myself through college because I ran away from home. So I had 2 part-time jobs. So I was pretty busy, and I didn't have a lot of time to feel sorry for myself, So
You had to survive.
I had to survive, and but I also felt like, I don't want my life to be this way. I don't want to be sick. I don't want to have all this emotional pain. I'm going to do whatever it takes to make it work. So I did that basically, and I studied a lot, and it became my passion.
So what did you study in college? So you went to college.
I went to college. I became an accountant. I studied economics. I got a degree in economics, and then I was gonna get a master's, and I had some accounting courses, but I ended up working in accounting while I was to put myself through school, and I didn't want to go and work for a CPA when I'm just that kind of person. I'm just like, I don't know what the word is, but self-motivating, wanting to be self-sufficient. And so even though I worked at an accounting office to put myself through school. And when I graduated, I just said, I'm starting my own accounting practice. And I just did. And so I was an accountant for 17 years. And then I was always into the spiritual stuff. I was always into...
Can I ask one question to interrupt for a second?
Yeah.
I'm just curious, because of who you are today.
Mm-hmm.
You chose accounting. Why? Like in your mind back then, what made you go towards accounting? Is that it was a passion, or was like you thought I have to survive because I'm good at that? Like what was that?
I either I was thinking of being an accountant or a lawyer. But I only because, when you're 18, it's like, and you want to have a career. And I was always really good with math, So math came to me really easily. So, and then with being a lawyer, you had to go to so many years of graduate school, and I was very impatient. I'm like, I'm done with school. I'm gonna do the work. I just want to go out into the world.
I'm just curious, yeah.
Yeah.
When you look back, I look back and I go, why didn't I do that? Like I'm more aligned to do this type of work in the sports field or whatever. Yet I just took the thing that in education because I was good with kids, but it didn't. Because you don't really know who you are back then. So I just was curious if you go back, would I do something different? Because I always think I guess they're part of our journey. It's part of our journey.
I don't think I would have done something different because I like...
You like it.
I like math, and it's like a challenge for me, and I felt like I could help people, and I feel like I really did help my clients a lot. I had all small business clients when I was an accountant, but I was also into my passion, health and well-being in every way, physical, emotional, mental, spiritual. So
And that is before people, what, I don't want to...
Well, yeah, that was 50 years ago.
Yeah, so 50 years ago when people weren't talking about this way of thinking.
No, I mean, there was some, but...
A little bit, but not.
Yeah,
it was more like, woo.
Yeah, it was definitely out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, there was no internet, right? So there was nothing you could look up. You had to get everything out of books, So I probably have more than 1,000 books. I have boxes and boxes of books because I read everything I could about in every way of health, physical, emotional, spiritual, mental. And then I had my accounting practice, but I also was still into all the spiritual stuff. There was where I lived in Hermosa Beach. There was a little bookstore like that had a lot of it was like a local little community bookstore, and they had a whole spiritual section, and I was in there all the
all the time.
time. Yeah, I was books and books and books and books.
So
And
you said you were sick at 18. Like, how did you heal yourself? Like, how?
well, I was always had colds or
Mm-hmm.
flus. So I decided this doesn't make any sense. There's no a person shouldn't be sick all the time. So I started reading, and I realized because I used to eat tons of sugar. I used to eat candy and cookies and whatever. I had no idea. And my mother, who of course she when I was a kid was buying the food. Nobody knew then that sugar was destructive in that way and processed foods. But I started reading books, and I immediately I like quit sugar. I used to drink like 5 or 6 Cokes a day. I stopped drinking soda. I just changed my diet completely.
Mm.
And I actually hadn't have a cold or flu for 49 years, except for one a few months ago because I got really bad food poisoning and I got really sick. And I was kind of, my immune system was down. So in 49 years, I had one cold.
Okay, so eating healthy, but you did have also scare with your health. You
I
shared the
did,
other day, which
yes.
was hit home for me.
Hmm.
So would you share that?
Sure. So roughly 30 years ago, I was diagnosed with stage 4 cervical cancer. And I had already, been eating healthy, but at the time I was under a tremendous amount of stress. So I had to go deeper and look at what stress can do to your immune system and to everything. You produce all this cortisol. It starts, your body, everyone has cancer cells in their body. This is like people don't really realize. Everyone has cancer cells in the body. It's just whether your body can handle them and not have them go out of control. So, when the doctor called me and told me, I'll never forget it. It was like a Friday night, and I just started crying. And then I couldn't, because I couldn't believe it, because I'm like, I've been doing all this stuff to be healthy. But I calmed down and realized, because I know that everything happens for a reason. So, and that's been my philosophy, for most of my life, ever since I started becoming really spiritual. And so I thought, okay, I'm having this because I'm going to need to help people.
Mm.
And so it was scary. But I didn't go back to the doctor who called me because he said, you got to come in and have surgery right away. I waited, and which was hard, but I found a doctor who would let me do my own stuff, which I did.
What do you mean by stuff?
So
Like, it doesn't have to be everything, but just
yeah, like
like if
herbs.
someone's in the reason it hit home for me, I just lost my cousin to ovarian, um, and she, went through the operations and did the chemo, and um, I feel like we're. I'm not saying everybody has to think like this, but you should. I feel like this is an example. When we were talking the other day, it's like we have to be our own advocate. We have to. I just got told something about my daughter at 11 years old, like crazy stuff, physical. And I could either believe him and go down the road, or I can choose to like look at other things and choose like I don't that doesn't feel right to me. Just because he says that doesn't mean it's right, or maybe it is right, but there's another solution. So
So I
that's
think,
what I hear.
unfortunately, and this is what happened in my store in California, is I would see people in that situation where the doctor had said to me, it was a Friday night, he said, you have to come in right away on Monday. So, I mean, I think all doctors, everyone who has ever become a doctor, I think is totally well meaning
Mm-hmm.
and really want to help
Agree.
people. But I think that they get caught up in this sort of like almost a hysteria. And what I have seen in my store in California for 28 years helping people is that this happens a lot with a lot of diseases. There's a rush because there's panic. And what I had to do at that time, which was hard because, again, there was no internet, there was nobody to talk to, I had to pull this out within myself of calm down, let's look at what are the possibilities. And I had to find a doctor, like I said, that would allow me to do my own healing, which I already knew a lot, but I had a lot of books on healing because that was my passion. So I just started thinking and studying and realizing that it's your immune system that needs to be strong, and it's stress. So I did everything I could think of. I was determined to heal myself because it was extremely scary when someone tells you, especially then, more than now, because now there's so many sources you can look up, but then there was nothing to look up other than books. And you think you're going to die. I mean, that's what people think when they're told they have cancer. It's immediate. And so I had to really pull myself together and figure out what to do. And I found a female doctor who was sort of holistic, not totally, but she said, okay, we're going to, I'll let you do these things and whatever, see what happens. So I took a lot of herbs that were building the immune system. I really changed and got really serious about meditating and visualizing. I did like Qigong exercises. I used crystals. I used flower essences because I came to the point where I knew that it was my emotional situation at the time. I had been under a lot of stress, and so I knew that I had to change that. I even made my own suppositories, everything. I did castor oil packs. I literally did everything I could find or think of because I made up my mind, I'm going to do this. And it took 4.5 months. And when I went to the doctor and she did a biopsy, came out totally normal. And the lab, it had been that she had been using the same lab that my original doctor had. And the lab called her back and said, I remember this patient. There's no way this could be normal. I think you should do another biopsy. I said, fine. They did the second biopsy, normal.
What a great example of taking ownership. And what I hear also, it's a belief of the power of meditation and visualization. When we started this conversation, we talked about visualization of your store and like how you're bringing in the energy that you want to allow the people to come that are meant to come. And what I hear is what you did to heal was a lot of different things, but also the visual is just as important as all the things you were taking.
I think it is. I think it's believing in your own body that look, our body started from the sperm and egg, and and it built this whole body from those two little cells, right? So, and we still have the DNA. We still have the blueprint that created ourselves. And so we have the ability to heal, right?
We have more. How do you describe that around our power? Because I did, walk on fire. I did like things that, like I bent a rod walking towards somebody and connecting to someone. Like you can't, until you do those, that's like, to me, oh wow, that's tangible. That's how much power we have. And are we using that power? So can you explain, I know it's hard to, because it's not tangible.
It's not.
So, but how, if you want to explain to someone to like be curious and like learn about more of our power within, and this is something I know is something I'm passionate about learning. So
I think, that you have to make a decision that this is what you want to do. And you have to use a lot of discipline and control. But first you have to believe it, or you won't do any of that, So I think, for me, I think the fact, I really believe that everything happens for a reason, and I believe that my mother was so controlling, which is why I left home. But I believe that was my biggest blessing because I had to do what I had to do. So it ignited in me that, you can't just wallow in whatever, feel sorry for yourself, whatever. You have to take your power. And I think, maybe just a message like that, just someone communicating that to another person, because I find that sometimes people, they're so much, I think for a lot of people, there's so much trauma in their life that they can't they're just so engulfed in the trauma that they don't even know that they have this power. So I think just maybe a message, just someone even having a one-on-one conversation, which is what I do in my store with, and letting people know that, hey, you can do this, because people are so engulfed in all the problems and the trauma and the pain that they don't even see it.
Yeah. I mean, I see that, like, even in the retreats we do or the work I do, some reason they're drawn to me, and I don't have their answers. Like, I'm just stirring with their thinking, kind of what you're saying. And my passion is because I know I lost myself probably around 10, 12, like, I don't know the exact moment, but I started to shut down, and I had everything. Like, I was fortunate. Like, I had a good upbringing, but I also wasn't honoring who I am. And that is what I see you doing, and also, like, in different ways, is to bring out what's already inside of you, that is your power, and to believe, unwind the programming. Even I'm working with a mentor of mine in Belgium, and, like, I have my own paradigms of my belief system that keeps me a little bit, moving but not excelling. Not It's not about money. It's about, like, the power that I want to live into. And I think that's what I hear you saying is, like, it's just having a conversation to believe what you already know.
I think, everyone has so much more ability than they allow themselves to utilize. But it's wound up in when kids, are told, like,
Behave.
like I was in my first quarter at college when I brought home straight A's, and my father looked at my report card and said, "Couldn't you do better than that?" And I know he was kidding, but that was lit a fire under me, and that was shortly thereafter is when I left home. And that just was like, it was a conflict of, oh my God, I'm not good enough, right? Which I think that I'm not good enough is in everybody, from whatever reason, and whatever you did as a kid, and your parents, well-meaning, but, criticized you or reprimanded you or whatever it is. So I'm not good enough. And you just have to just step back. You have to step out of it, and you have to look at, like what I said, we are miracles. Every human is like a miracle.
Yep. And we're really exactly what you said about, we are perfect. And our journey, like you said, it was a blessing of your mother. I think there's so much of, like, making things wrong or right, or even, I was just saying how, like, sometimes I interview people, and like, they're afraid to say something they feel, or that they're going to hurt someone's feelings. Like, it's not a blame game. It's like unleashing. That's the power. It's like when you had a moment where your father was kidding and he didn't mean it. It's like, but it hit home with you, and you were awake enough to use it in your power instead of shrinking, is what I hear. And I think I even, I'm human. Even with my daughter who's 11, today she had to sing, and her voice, she's a little sick, and she had a practice for this thing on Wednesday, and I could see it. She's crying. I can't do it today. I go, listen, you do the best you can. Well, everybody's gonna see, like, and she's in theater, so she's already thinking about external people viewing her, and that's why it's important to, this is my work also, is important to help parenting and leaders do their work so they can help the people that are younger and looking up, so they have a leader that actually sees them and not shuts them off. I just wanted to take a moment and share what we have coming up at Live Your June. We are doing our second Soulstigator retreat here in Jupiter in May and mid-May. And it's a 4-day experience where you get to take a pause in your life and really do some inner work, inner self-reflection, and using your own journey to see the magic that's within you that you've already done in your life, and using that as fuel to create what you're looking for in the future, whether it be what kind of parent you want to be, what kind of leader you want to be, what's something you want to create, what's something you want to learn. And we really embrace your journey in the past and looking forward. So it's a magical 4 days with incredible humans. It literally will shift you. So join us at this spring's May Solstigator Retreat in Jupiter. We can't wait to have you. Check it out. What that I love your story of like your cancer. I wish I knew you when I don't. But there's reason for everything. But what? Okay, so I want to talk about, like, you're in LA, had the similar store. Nothing's changed really, right?
No.
So Rena's telling me, oh yeah, I just picked up and left. Tell us this. I think it's so awesome. Again, she's so entrusting in the journey of your knowledge, and you're trusting in the universe, or whatever, sending your message. But share how you ended up across the other side of the United States.
Yeah, 3,000 miles away. I just, I mean, it didn't happen overnight, but it was this feeling. And I think that's what I try to help people to do is, I think if people would, there's always a reason for a feeling, you know. I mean, people have feelings, people have things that come up in relationships, things that come up about their life, and they don't listen. They kind of discard their own feelings, which I'm getting off the subject. But I had a feeling that it was time for me to come to Florida. And I don't know, but I know now because I've had a whole bunch of people that I've already helped here that have literally had life-changing situations with what we've been able to do. And so I guess I just felt like I, had been in Hermosa Beach there, and the whole community knew me. I had like 30,000 people on my database. I'd helped so many people, and I felt like I'm supposed to go somewhere else now. So I kind of just kept meditating on that. And
what do you mean meditate? Like, you're asking, like, what are you asking a question? Like, what were you asking?
Well, I think meditating can be different things. It can be a feeling, too. I would have this feeling, so I was supposed to go somewhere, and I'd look at the map. I just would do this over and over, and I would just literally, it would be like my eyes would go to Jupiter, Florida, and I would like think about it, and then I'd go, just kind of go away and just, keep living my life and doing whatever and come back. And, I'm doing what I just said, is sort of step back. And, I see that a lot of times based on past emotions, people make decisions like these emotions that you're not good enough and all the whatever else other trauma they've had in their life. And that comes up, and then they make life decisions out of fear based on those emotions. And so I feel like, if people can just, and that's why meditating, I think meditating is the most important thing that any person can do if they want to have a better life and have transformation and have guidance. Because really, I believe that we all have what's called a higher self, which is it's just us. It's just our spiritual part of ourself. And your higher self always has your answers. But you can't be in a state of stress and worry and all of that. You have to calm down, meditate, and you eventually will get that answer. So I felt like I got the answer. And yeah, it was a big deal because I had a whole store full of big cabinets and things. It took four times of moving trucks.
You are a true, we call it soulstigator, like the soulful instigator. Like, I just listening to you just through the cancer, through the move. If you're listening to Rena, it really is the same mindset. It's the same pattern of discovery of self, of what the next evolution of self is. It's like, don't panic.
Don't panic.
Don't panic. Pause. Listen. Meditate.
Yep.
Stir the pot because you look at the map and you're like, keep going over here. I don't know why. Let me just sit with it. And then it reminds me of I had split with a boyfriend and we were living in Tahoe, and the easy part for me would have been to go be with my family. That's comfort. And I don't know the answer yet, so I don't want to just go to comfort. So I moved to Park City, no clue, no school, no home. And then in this process of getting my girl in 3 different schools, we had lived in 3 different spots by the time we got settled, and something pulled me here, actually. And it reminds me of what you're saying, because I was meditating, probably, I'm learning. It's meditated on and off, but not consistent. But I'm listening. I'm really listening. And there was just, my mom happened to have something, but it was like already in me to go jump. But I hear that. And I guess if someone hasn't practiced what you're sharing, any advice to learn? Like you teach this, you help people. Like, just to the listeners, like any advice? Obviously, you're telling in your process, but they have to find their own.
Yeah, I know everyone has their own way, but I think that one of the things you have to become conscious of is that, and I feel like this is true, that everyone really has the answers. So you have to believe that first. So you have to convince yourself, and that's just, you just have to believe that somewhere inside of you are the true answers, because they are. I think everyone has a higher self, and I think if you just get quiet, meditating is not complicated. I have a lot of people that tell me, I don't know how to meditate, and meditating is basically, there are all kinds of meditating. People meditate with a mantra, people meditate with a guided meditation, and whatever, try different things. Like I tried all those things, and for me it started with guided meditation, and then it just became, I did it so often that I was able just to do it myself. So it's really easy. There's tons of guided meditations, right? You just have to, I think it's more than anything else, it's just making a decision that, Carolyn Myss wrote a book, I forget the title of the book, but it was like, it was Why People Don't Heal. That's the title. I wrote a book about how people somehow getting into the poor me, the victim, brings them energy. So you have to totally make a decision that you are not a victim. There's no poor me. Everything happens for a reason. It's always for your highest good. And you have to decide that you are going to get that highest good. However, you're going to do it one way or another. You make up your mind, and then you meditate and ask for guidance, or just come to a place like my store, go to your friends, just start, or find a meditation group, do something to get yourself out of that. If you are in the victim of poor me, or this is not working, you just have to keep searching and you'll find it. It's more about the decision.
Yeah, I agree with that. Because otherwise you're staying in the environment that feeds that saying that you're saying, like the victim or the poor me. You're either surrounding yourself that allows for it, even just an example of, it could be anything, but like the breakup, like I chose not to share too much of it because it's easy that people will feed off that.
Right.
And then I'm feeding off. Not that I consciously, I just didn't want to have more of it, more drama. I need to find solutions.
Right.
So I think that's what you're saying is the poor me.
It's sometimes it's
Poor
dwelling on the problem and talking, it's okay. It's, everyone needs to vent sometimes, but doing it over and over, it just, it's like you're putting the energy out into the universe that I have this problem, I have this problem, I have this problem. You don't want to do that. You could I have this problem until you can vent it a little, and then we're all human, but then you've got to make make up your mind.
I mean, just like your cancer. So, like when you were doing the cancer, did you have a mantra when you were meditating? Like, what was your
Oh yeah.
decision that you
Yeah.
said? It's like it's a declaration. Like I am, whatever.
Right. And based on that, I used to do a lot of meditation classes in California, and the theme would be I am. So I am healthy, I am powerful, I am healing, whatever it is, I am is extremely powerful.
So, did you do that 3 times a day? Did you do that in the mirror? Because I mean, I'm starting to experiment. I don't really look at myself in the mirror, but now I'm like, no, I need to love myself. Like,
Yeah.
it's not that I don't love myself, but I need to really see me.
Right. Loving
That's my journey.
yourself is part of this whole thing, and in fact, it's all the healing. It's actually what happens is you go through all the other stuff to love yourself. So you have to see that um, that we're on Earth, which is a planet of duality. So there could be no joy without sadness. There can be no light without darkness. So everything is there to help us, to motivate us. So if you look at it, if you look at the sadness, you look at only the darkness, you look at only the pain, whatever, you have to stop. You have to start looking for the other side of that, for why that is, because it motivates you to get to the other side. But as far as I would literally say that to myself all day long, whenever. I mean, if I was driving, if I was eating, if I was cooking, I would just say to myself, my body is healing. I have the power to heal. I can see the light that's coming in. I would ask for light and positive energy to come in my body and see my cells, healing and my cells energizing and just everything that I was determined. I mean, that's why I keep coming back to that decision. Once you get to the point where you make that decision and you just won't accept anything else. And I see a lot of things and I've had my own lessons where things happen and I've had to make very difficult decisions where a lot of it has to do with pleasing other people too, like friends or whoever. And I think one of the other things that's really, really powerful that I do have in my store is flower essences. And a lot of people don't know what they are, but they work on a very subtle soul level to ignite things within you. And I mean, there's so many things that can help a person. When you make that decision, they will come to you. You will find them, whatever it is.
It is so true. I mean, what wisdom? I mean, and if you listen to that, what you're saying, decision, like real, that means if you decide, from an athletic person, you're deciding. That means you cannot choose things that don't serve that decision.
No, you can't.
And I think when I look at my past or when I'm struggling with something or I'm playing the victim or whatever, because I'm learning my own journey, it's usually when I am not making the decision and then I'm like in the middle, like I'm on the fence, instead of just saying, no, my decision is I'm honoring this moment, I'm honoring me or whatever decision I make. And that doesn't align with, it's the alignment that doesn't align. And exactly until you let go of the things that don't align with your decision, is that true? Would you say,
Yes.
then you get the attraction?
Then you get, and the other thing that prevents people from making the decision is fear. So it's the fear of what will happen in so many, like, let's say me moving to Florida. What if I'm not, I mean, I didn't have that thought because I already decided I have to be successful, but what if I'm not successful? What if this, what if that, whatever, what if,
And you had some issues with the place that you,
oh
it's like it's not like you made a decision, but you're willing to do the hurdles or the obstacles that come with it. Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't tell that story because we'd have to have another 2 or 3 hours. But yeah, there were people who said to me, like, just a real quick thing is I'm constructing the store in a way that's taking a really long time, but it's going to be amazing. And I had so many people here tell me, oh, like I'm painting the floor, which is very complicated. It's like a painting, and people would say, oh, just you need to open the store, just paint the whole thing green, like one color, and just do it. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that because and logically they were like, well, you just need to get open because it's been all this time and whatever. But that's the whole thing. When you make a decision, you have to believe in yourself and why you made that decision. And whatever fear comes up, like this for me would be my store is not open, I'm not having any income, and that could be a fear. But I had to trust. You have to go within yourself and see what is what you are really supposed to. When I say supposed to, what's your real soul? What do you want? Because had I done that, I would always forever, I would have been sorry that I didn't listen to what I want. What I know is important, and I know it's important because it's art that when people walk in, it's going to change the way they feel.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important for my store to have that beauty so that people walk in and I know because I had that in California. People would walk in, people would come to my store just not to buy anything, but which they, either way, and I'm okay with that. Just because all the time, like tons of people would walk in and go, "I just had a stressful day. I had to come here.
Yeah.
I feel better."
But even when I listen to you, it's like I have a friend in Park City that it's called Heart Space. And when she talks about it, when she's doing her retreats and with her clients, she's like, we have blessed these walls. Like,
Yeah.
and I actually hear you from my own perspective is like, we're not taught that either.
Mm-hmm.
We're just taught to buy, grab this and not like, what does that mean to me? So I think it's something to take in myself listening to you as the host that I'm learning. Like, it's beautiful that you're taking time to make it the way you're supposed to make it to serve.
It's really hard to do it because it's been 26 months, and I intended to be able to open in about 4 or 5 months. So I mean, I'm open, right?
But it goes back to the decision.
It
Like,
goes back to this is the vision, and I know that when it's finished, it will be, and it sounds like almost over the top, but it's not. People will walk in, and just walking in, and that's my intention. My intention is to help people to remember the truth of themselves as a beautiful, powerful, magnificent being. And when they walk in, they're going to feel that on them. Just the place is beautiful, but it helps. It's a reflection.
Yes.
It helps them bring that out in themselves.
Yeah. Beautiful. I feel you. And I feel, oh my God, this is why I do this. Do you see how I do this? Like, you're so emotional about the mission that you're here to do, and you're going at a deeper level probably than you were in LA.
To pull back the tears. It's
so
really
what?
deep.
It's so beautiful. I feel it. I'm going to cry because it's what I did my first retreat in the fall, and I was like, so many times I'm going to be like, oh, it's not time. It's not perfect. And there's no perfect. And when the right things come, and the people came, and it was magical. People saw, like, that is what they're going to see you at the store. Like, that's why I come back. Like, it's not just the mat. It's like really who you are reflecting right now. The floor's not there, but I feel it from you, like that the floor is there because you're seeing and hearing what I need, or what I bring out what I don't even know I need, So I so honor you, even the move that you're in our community, and that you have such passion, because I really think this space needs you. And I just honor you for even, I've met her 3 times, okay? It's so funny how things happen. But I trusted that you were supposed to come and share this. Oh, it's so beautiful, and I honor the emotion. Because when I had my retreat, I literally was bawling the last day because I saw people, like I do, like symbols, and have them share their philosophy, and they do like a vision board, and they do and they have it all up there, but everybody sees each other and shares what they see in each other, and then they see themselves in a light they never saw by sharing their journey and what they want to create.
Yeah, they get empowered by other people seeing their awesomeness.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think every being is so awesome, and they just every human and every being is so
And that's what
awesome.
you're sharing. You're allowing them to shine their light that they don't even see in themselves.
Right.
That's what I see the emotion come out of you.
That's
Why can I ask, like, what is coming up for you?
right now.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I just feel, and it's not bad. It's all good.
Yeah, of
It's
course, of course,
just,
of course.
yeah, it's just the intensity of. I think what it is a combination of a lot of different things. I think it's just the joy of knowing that people can do this, but the sadness that so many people aren't.
Mm.
Like that hope and that wish that people would just realize how awesome they are,
Mm.
and that's just very emotional.
Yeah.
You know.
I did a, it reminds me of, I did a really solo, I didn't know what the heck I was doing. It was, I don't know, 6 years, 7 years ago. Deep breath work, like deep. I mean, I don't even know, snob, like crying, bawling, uh, reliving like my birth, like crazy crap. And when I got out, I mean, I was like in a whole different, I saw people that I had edges on like differently, the light that they had. And when I got done, like I was so like, it was like a 3-day thing, but that moment I was like, I do a lot of work on myself, like for 20 plus years.
Yeah.
And here I was like unwinding another layer. And
Yeah.
I was crying like you just did. Cause I was like, how sad. Like I know what I just let go of. And I do work at that moment. And I was like, can you imagine what people are holding on to? And they're not living, this is living into your June, the work that you're putting out, like soothe your soul. Like, damn it, soothe your soul. Like, we're here for you. Like, don't, if you feel a calling right now listening, whether it's us or somebody else in your community, go walk there. Do say hello, whatever's coming up for you in this listening to this Rena and her story and her journey. Take action. Don't sit and go, oh, that was a good podcast. Like, do something. That's the point of this, right? Who is your biggest influencer? Or who made a huge impact on you? And maybe it was through books or something. Or
There were a lot, but I also walked on fire. Tony Robbins.
Mm.
I listened to a lot of his tape. That part about the decision, I used to listen to his tapes all the time.
Mm.
And he said once you decision, the actual word in Latin, is scission, like cut. You cut everything out. And I think that, but so many. I mean, I read so many self-help books, but I think overall, I think Tony Robbins, and doing the fire walk, which was hard. But yeah, once you do that, you're kind of like, I
I
can do
remember
anything.
when I did mine, there was a girl who was fighting everything through the whole. It was a small group, not like Tony. Tony's big or no?
There was over 1,000 people.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's probably a different like we were like 20.
Yeah.
But there was a girl that was a yoga instructor who was like, what is this stuff? Like whatever we were doing, talking about, and like, what's our obstacles through using different activities. And then we were doing the firewalk, and we were all like, we're here together we're here to support each other. This is how we do this. And she wasn't going to do it. And we all were doing it, and we had to look forward. I don't know what Tony says, but look where you're going. Don't look down.
Right.
Like
Right.
like just what you're saying.
And that's life too.
Decision.
Right. That's life. Look where you want to go. Yeah.
And she watched us, and then she's like, all right, everybody's doing it. I'm going to do it. And this is what happens in life. So her ego is saying to do it, and she burnt her feet because she was doing it from not a
not
powerful
not
place.
from power.
Yeah. It was very interesting. And I didn't see it all, but then the instructor later, we were friends. He's like, you know why she burned her feet? I was like, I don't know. I didn't really pay attention. He's like, because she wasn't doing it from a powerful place.
Well, she was doing it because everyone else did it.
Yes,
And
exactly.
then she had
Which
to,
is
she
what
had,
our society does.
That's what everybody does. It's crazy.
It's not, you're not doing it from
Yeah.
a place of like, this is where I want to go. You're doing it because.
Yeah. I mean, the entire world would be such a different place if everyone just, and I say just, it's not that easy, but if everyone loved themselves. And because then you can't harm someone else if you love yourself. You can't. And then there's so many people looking for relationship and love, and they don't love themselves. So what happens is they get into the relationship that reflects the fact that they don't love themselves. And so those things are happening in their relationship because they got to love themselves. That's a lot. I did a lot of work on that, you know? And once I felt like, you know, in my early 20s, I had gotten pretty much through that because it was, I wasn't going to let up. Like I said, I just read books and kept on it and on it and on it. Like, I need to get through this, whatever my health, all my health, my emotional health, my spiritual, the whole thing.
But I would also say, like, you read books, but like you're doing it. Like sometimes people read books and they're like, "Oh, great book," or you also have to do it. Like you also have to do the practice of taking in what you read and walking the walk. And you do, like, that's the lesson. I hear you, is you're standing in your power in all the things you've done, from health to making decisions to serving the world and the people. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. Oh, I feel you.
Thank you.
So last question. Oh, did you have something?
I just want to say my vision is to, I'll just say it real quick. After I got a message when I was an accountant, I just heard it in my head. You need to sell your accounting practice. And I had no idea what I was going to do. And I started doing all these things. But one day I was doing like spiritual healing and different things. And one day I woke up with this video in my head that you were going to create a store. And I thought, I don't store. Why am I having? And I heard the message. It's not a store. It's a healing center. But it was like a big long video in my head. It wasn't like a 2-minute thing, and the whole thing was that there are going to be 200 of these stores. And many times during this last 28 years, I'm like, how can there be 200? Because I had a lot of struggles, but it's come to me that eventually that Soothe Your Soul is going to be a franchise where I can help other people to create this in communities all over.
I love it.
So that's the ultimate vision, so that when I go to the other dimension, they'll be here.
It's your serving. You have it. Your imprint made. Speaking of imprint, is that, like I always ask the last question, like if you leave your what's the message you want to leave with the world? Like what's the imprint you want to leave for future generations? And it's kind of what you're saying, but I also know you have like a real good way to say it. I feel like you shared it the other day.
I think the imprint is that to just, which all those 200 franchises are going to do, is to help people to realize the truth of themselves as a powerful, magnificent, creative, loving being.
Beautiful. Well, thank you, Rena. I totally feel you, and I hope this message resonates with those listening, and I feel I'm in person with her, but I know the people that are listening are feeling your energy and the power of all the work that I don't want to say work, but like the energy you've put into where you are right now to serve and to make the world a better place. It's just beautiful.
And I think people need to look at every single obstacle as an opportunity, and that's how they're going to get to the place where they realize that truth of themselves. And thank you, Wendy, so much for having me.
Such a joy. Thank you. Thanks for tuning in to Journey to June. Again, you can find us on any of the platforms. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and we love to hear your feedback on Rena Joy or any of our episodes. questions, ideas, just shoot us a review, and a 5-star would be awesome. And we hope you're enjoying these episodes. Stay tuned for Journey to June.